Good evening to you all, and welcome to, I guess I should say, the month of May, and our first council meeting during the month of May, our regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you all for complying with our requirements as it relates to seating capacity. We're still under some COVID restrictions, and so we ask for your cooperation, and also on the mask policy as well. For those of you who may come to the podium and speak, you can feel free at that time to let down your mask if you would like. We can sometimes understand each other better that way. As we begin our meeting this evening, I will call on our town clerk, who will call the roll. Present.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a full slate of our folks here, so thank you, council members, for being here tonight. At this time, I'm going to recognize Council Member Dellinger, who will lead us in our pledge and also lead us in our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day, another opportunity for us to serve the community we love. Please be with those who are suffering from the terrible attack last week. Give them comfort and healing as only you can. In His name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir, very much. Okay, we begin most of our meetings with a section called Petitions and Comments, and I will read for the benefit of those of you who may have an interest or those who are online. This segment, this portion of the meeting is to receive comments from the public on items not included on this agenda. Interested parties can choose to appear live or, on the virtual meeting platform or provide written comments that will be shared with council. And of course, an online form is available. I don't think I'll read the entire address there. And I believe at this point, Madam Clerk, do we have any persons who have expressed an interest in petitioning the council this way? Okay. So the council is interested in hearing concerns but may not take action or deliberate on subject matters brought up during the petitions and comments segment. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town official or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. So since no one is seeking to comment online, I will ask if there are any persons here in the audience this evening who came prepared or desire to make a comment. If so, let it be known. Okay, seeing and hearing none. And we have no written comments, do we, Madam Clerk? Thank you. All right. Council, the next item of business is the adoption of the agenda. And before I ask you to give me a motion, I believe I need to ask for an additional item under closed session. I might ask the attorney to give me the cite on that.
Yes. In addition to the one on personnel or employment, we'd ask for a closed session to consult with the attorney concerning pending litigation or claims. That would be 143-318.11A3.
We don't need the real
Okay,
estate.
just that one then.
I'm sorry?
It would just be one. I thought there might be another one, but
Oh, okay, okay. So the cite you just gave, though, is the one, okay?
yes.
All right, and with that change, in addition, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made, properly seconded. All in favor of approving our agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
And there is no opposition. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we now have at least 3 presentations, and these are in the form of proclamations that we will present to different people this evening. And I'm going to begin, and I'll ask our Economic Development Director, Mr. Stallings, to come forward. But as he's doing that, I'm going to read the first proclamation that will recognize May 2nd through May 15, 2021 as Garner Small Business Economic Development Week. And after I read the proclamation, Mr. Stallings has, I think, a video presentation he wants to make, and then a recognition of a special person with us this evening. So let's do that at this time. The proclamation is, whereas America's progress has been driven by pioneers who think big, take risk, and work hard, and whereas economic development promotes economic well-being and the increase in quality of life by helping to create, retain, and expand jobs that sustain individuals and families, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas from the storefront shops that anchor Main Street to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, small businesses are the backbone of our economy and the cornerstone of our nation's promise. Whereas when we support small business and economic development, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. And whereas because this country's 28 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. Whereas the town of Garner supports and joins in this national effort to raise the awareness of the importance of economic development and help America's small businesses do what they do best. That is, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, I, Ken Marshman, Mayor of Garner, do hereby proclaim the week of May 2nd through May 15, 2021 as Garner Small Business Economic Development Weeks. And we have placed our seal and my signature there too. So, Mr. Stallings, I will bring this down to you, but first of all, if you will, make the presentation that you have planned, sir.
Yes, sir. Mayor and Town Council, it's a great day to come before you all as part of Economic Development and Small Business Week to celebrate those companies here that call Garner home. This is a short video that we had made, and thank you to Councilman Dellinger and the Mayor for helping us with this, and I hope that it's well received to our business community.
Hi, I'm Mayor Ken Marshburn. Garner Small Business Week kicks off on May 2nd, and we're eager to celebrate all the entrepreneurs who call Garner home.
To our small business community, we know this has been a tough year, perhaps the toughest ever. From restrictions and closures, mask wearing and social distancing, we've all had to learn how to do things in a new way.
Even with everything constantly changing, you have hung in there and shown that Garner runs on small business. And for that, we only have one thing to say, and that is thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our hungry families. Thank you for meeting virtually. Thank you for never losing hope.
But most of all, thank you all for reminding us how great Garner truly is.
Video really kind of sums things up this year for us. This is a special time of year for the Economic Development Department, but more so this year than maybe any other time in history, or at least since I've been here, because we know that this past year has been tough on our business community. And this week, we especially want to say to those small businesses that call our community home, thank you. As a part of that, we have developed a web page here on choosegarnernc.com/Garner Small Biz Week to help folks get resources and take advantage of some unique things that we're doing this year. One of which is the headshots. So local companies and small business folks can sign up here and get a free headshot courtesy of our Garner Chamber of Commerce. We're also conducting a small business survey to help us get some data into the department so we can figure out, is there better ways for new programming or new ways we can better serve our business community? And then finally, the business outreach section. So I have passed out a lot of cards to the town council and our member economic development partners, and would encourage anyone in the public, if you see this shirt, please know that this is someone who is going around Garner thanking small businesses for what they've been doing over the past year and encouraging them to keep the great work up. On the back, it has our partners in this, the Garner Economic Development Corporation, the Garner Chamber of Commerce, of course, the Town of Garner, and our Downtown Garner Association. All those folks will have their board members, as well as our elected body, out and about, thanking small businesses personally with a thank you card and encouraging them to do the great work that they do. So I also want to take this time to introduce the Chamber President, Matthew Coppage, who is a partner in crime, so to speak, on this and has been instrumental in helping us pull this together this year. And so I'd ask Matthew to come up and say a few words, and then Mayor, if we can bother you for a snapshot with the proclamation.
Sure.
And we'll get out of your hair.
Good evening, Mayor Marshburn and members of the council. I appreciate meeting you. It's great to see you here this evening. We're always excited to partner with the town. The town staff here has been amazing to work with, and I'm excited to get to know all of you better as we move forward and we come out of the pandemic and we begin to reopen, and we have some exciting things planned at the Garner Chamber, and I'm excited again to work with you all and the staff that you hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just on behalf of Downtown Garner, we really appreciate everything that all of our citizen volunteers are doing to thank the businesses. We will be going out this week to do some visits as well, just letting our downtown businesses know how much we appreciate all the support they've given us over the years, and we're just thankful that they've hung in there through the pandemic and look forward to letting them know that in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. And Joe, let me hand you the proclamation, if I might. Just for the record, I want to show off my green shirt to everybody. Looks a lot like the one Joe was showing. And by the way, I wore it today. Joe has a plan for us to contact a lot of our small businesses here in the area. I was over in the, what's the area called? It's North-South Station. But, yeah, and I met a lot of, well, I met at least, I don't know, 8 or 10 folks over that way. Ran into some people that I didn't know, obviously, and some businesses that I didn't know was in Garner. And so the idea of getting out and welcoming us and thanking small business owners for what they do is a very worthwhile thing to do, both to express our appreciation to them, but also it gives us the opportunity to meet some people we haven't met, and I believe they really appreciate that. So I look forward to others having a similar opportunity, and don't forget to wear your green, okay? All right. I'm good. You ready for it? Bother you for a second? Yes. I'll watch it for you.
With the mask.
Okay, if you're following on the agenda, you know that we have a couple of other presentations. So at this time, I'm going to recognize Forrest Jones, who is Director of Public Works, and we have a proclamation to recognize National Public Works Week, and Councilmember Singleton will lead us in that.
Right, this is to recognize Public Works Week, which is May 16th through the 22nd of this year. Whereas public work services provided in our community are an integral part of citizens' everyday lives And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, streets, public buildings, solid waste collection, and snow removal. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depend on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and the effectiveness of all these facilities, as well as of their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of public works personnel. Whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they performed. Now therefore, Ken Marshburn, the mayor of the town of Garner, does hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the town of Garner, and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works services and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, our safety, comfort, and the quality of life. Witness therefore the Great Seal of Garner signed by the mayor. And so many people don't recognize or know what public works does. We don't have the water and sewer utilities here in Garner, but they keep town hall facilities, police, Garner Performing Arts Center, Avey Street, the senior center, their own public works building looking great. All our parks are maintained. Lake Benson, White Deer, Garner Road, Greenbrier Park, Centennial Park, South Garner Park are all maintained by Public Works. Keep them looking great. Rain or shine, when the kids are playing ball in the field, they got the fields in good shape. And we just concluded another spring annual unrestricted trash pickup, and I'm sure Mr. Ball can tell us how many tons they picked up, but we're one of the few towns in the area that provide that service, and that takes them a lot of time, several weeks to perform that, and it's a service that our citizens now expect, and that Public Works does every year, and they do a great job in picking up and cleaning up all the unrestricted trash we put out there. So first, I will present the proclamation to you. Thank you. And all your folks and picture.
We'll take one with you.
Yeah. And if you want to, you can make any comments you'd like to after the photo.
Great fun.
My comments very brief. Thank you, Councilmember Singleton, for reading the proclamation. Mayor, members of council, thank you for your support for all of our Public Works team and the hard work they do each and every day, and taking a moment to recognize them. I know oftentimes in years past we've had some special events at our place, but COVID is still impacting us where we're not able to do some of the things that we have traditionally done. But this year, the theme for National Public Works Week is Stronger Together. So we have recently decided to partner with Community of Hope this year, and we'll be running a campaign what we're going to call Fill the Truck. So we'll have some more information coming on out on that soon, to where we'll be doing a food drive, and we'll have the dump truck. We'll have a truck going around at a different location each day of the week of Public Works Week, and asking folks to come out and bring us non-perishable items that we can partner together with the Community of Hope on this, and hopefully allow them to be able to help more people and reach folks here in the Garner area. So there'll be some more information on that. Paying attention to Rick's is going to help us with that on some social media things, and we're looking forward to something very successful this year. But I thank you for taking time to recognize our staff. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for all the good work you do. Our third proclamation this evening will be presented by Mayor Pro Tem Behringer, and I'll ask the Chief of Police, if he will, to come forward. And not only will this proclamation be read tonight, but there will be a further ceremony, I believe, essentially it's a week from Saturday, I guess,
Yes, sir.
right? Yeah. So
May
you
15th.
can mention that, but Ms. Behringer, go right ahead.
Okay. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States, through Public Law 87726, signed by President John F. Kennedy in 1962, proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas Public Law 103322, signed by President William Clinton in 1994, directs that the flag of the United States on all government buildings be displayed at half-staff on May 15th of each year. And whereas the members of the Garner Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the town of Garner, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Whereas the men and women of the Garner Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Ken Marshburn of the town of Garner, North Carolina, we call upon all citizens of the town of Garner and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 9 through 16, 2021, as National Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may be joining in, commemorating law enforcement officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Further, I call upon all citizens of Garner to observe May 15th, 2021 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all those law enforcement officers who their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. In witness whereof, Ken Marshman has set his seal, the Great Seal of the town of Garner, to be fixed on May 3rd, 2021.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we really appreciate that support. As always, the men and women of the Garner Police Department are very lucky to work in a community like Garner, where is that community support and that council support. As I was getting ready for this, I was looking through the numbers, and again, May 15th is Police Officers Memorial Day, and the numbers in 2020, there were 295 officers that lost their life in the line of duty, which is about 100 or so more, about 150 more than in 2019. There was 139 then and 96 so far this year. So we certainly appreciate all the support from the Garner community and all the support from the town council that we do get. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Behringer will present the proclamation. Would you like to introduce the young lady coming up, or I know her? Oh, yeah, let me get out of there.
Eric tries to sneak in every picture he can.
Okay, thank you all for your participation, and council members for yours as well. At this time, I'm going to ask council to approve the consent agenda. There are 5 items, and unless any council member desires to pull an item or change anything there, I will ask for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, properly before us. Hearing no questions, if you approve the consent agenda, please vote aye.
Aye.
If there's opposition, no, and there is none. Thank you very much. All right. At this point, we now go into public hearing, of which we have one. Interested parties can participate in public hearings by either appearing in person or through the virtual meeting platform. Again, an online form is available. I believe there are no persons who have expressed an interest in that regard. Is that right? So I believe, is Mr. Franks appearing virtually this evening, Mr. Manager? Okay. So at this point in time, I'd like to recognize Mike Franks, our budget manager, who will bring us information regarding the 21-22 recommended budget. And I will formally open the public hearing at this time. I'm sorry?
Having some technical difficulties. There he goes. He'll be joining us in a second. There we go. There's the presentation. And we're not hearing you, so I'm not sure if you said anything yet, Mike.
Now, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Yeah, go ahead. You good?
Okay, great. All right, tonight I'm going to give a presentation on the FY 21-22 recommended budget. It's a budget the council just received. And this is the first opportunity for the public to provide comment on the budget. We'll have additional opportunities. We'll also have the Facebook Live event of some kind where I'll give an overview on the budget so there's a little bit less formal and for those still worried with COVID. But this is the public's first chance to get a feel of what's included in the budget. So I'll review the recent history, do some high-level recommendations, and then take any questions. All right, so the FY21 budget in review. So if you go back to this time last year, we were still dealing with the very beginning effects of COVID-19 and all the uncertainty that brought. We did not really understand what the world was going to look like moving forward based on COVID, how it was going to affect the economy, how it was going to affect property tax, sales tax, which are from our revenue streams, and what we'd be able to do. So there's a lot of uncertainty. With that, there was also a reassessment year for Wake County. For every 4 years, Wake County performs a review of home values and provides a revenue neutral rate. So that's the rate at which the locality would receive the same amount of revenue. So housing values go up, and they provide the revenue neutral rate, which would make it even for the locality. So for that year, the town included a tax rate of 0.4971, which was 3.5 cents above the revenue neutral rate of 0.4621. The budget included a variety of different items, the various public safety initiatives, so fire and police, funding to implement the pay equity study. That was a study designed to put people basically where they're supposed to be in terms of their pay, 7 years of service. We included recurring funding for public facilities repair and maintenance, which is basically allows funding to exist for maintenance projects. There's a large backlog of. And then one-time funding to prepare for the November 2021 bond referendum. So some one-time dollars to do some initial studies. So for FY22, on the revenue side, we had some good news. We had continued strong growth at ad valorem taxes. There was no proposed tax investment. The tax rate remained consistent. We experienced strong home growth, so the number of new homes, number of new businesses continued to grow. There were some small declines. I think our inspections director committee at one point mentioned, as one house gets finished, instead of starting to build two, they're just starting to build one. So that's still strong growth, but not quite as much as it was. But I think we are getting back to where we were in the past as we got through COVID. We also had the impact of Amazon personal property coming in line. Then we also had declines in overall personal property due to COVID-19, and this was across jurisdictions in Wake County. There was an assumed decrease on your baseline of personal property. And also had significant growth in sales tax based on reduced 2021 projection and strong performance. So a large part of the reason that we're going up is because we assumed FY21 would go down based on COVID-19. We are now assuming that that will go up substantially. We ended up doing quite well in FY21. So we're going to experience some growth, and we're also going to readjust the baseline back up. The question that we don't know yet is exactly when we've experienced such strong growth. The growth that we've experienced has actually been at a higher rate than it was pre-COVID-19, and that's comparing months that were impacted by COVID-19. So we're growing faster than we were pre-COVID-19. But we're not sure why. Is it because people are staying in Garner and it's not commuting out to other places for their jobs? They're spending their dollars in Garner. Is it because people they have a lower household expenses based on their kids staying home. We just don't know, but we are experiencing stronger growth. Also, the growth is being offset by a loss of interest income revenue due to reduced interest rates. The bond portfolio was invested on an annual basis, not much different than putting your money in the stock market, or less risky than the stock market, but bonds and things along those lines that are pretty safe. Interest rates was lower based on the Federal Reserve trying to stimulate the economy. And then we did include a review of fees to ensure the town is in line with other localities, and that will include a variety of different adjustments. And that'll be something to provide additional detail to council on later, and to the public as well. So on the expenditure side, we had continued reductions in group insurance rates after multiple years of significant increases. So year after year, we're having large, sometimes double-digit percentage increases. And this last year, we saw a 5% decrease, so that was good news. We're setting the budget in the post-COVID world, so we've generally assumed that things are going to be close to normal on July 1st when the budget starts. So assuming that books are going to be open, that programming is going to be going on, we're going to be able to go to trainings that were canceled last year or remote, so just resetting the budget there. We also had significant growth in revenues savings plan based on higher revenue estimates. So the revenue savings plan captures a portion of the growth in primarily property tax and real estate sales tax. So with the strong growth, we are contributing approximately $1 million based on the formula to the revenue savings plan. However, a portion of that will be redirected to cover bond-related requirements. So some administrative position and some things on the engineering side, project management and reviews of infrastructure. And then we had reductions, and these are one-time funds in FY21 to reduce requirements for approximately $450,000. So some reductions, and then also some departments having savings, utilizing those savings to purchase some requirements in FY22. In terms of the decision packages, which are the big ticket items, funding was included for several decision packages to the administrative and project finance support for the bond referendum, 2 police officers to address increased service demands, as the town's population continues to grow, and also as our geographic area continues to expand. Those types of positions will be more necessary. We had parks grounds attendants to address issues impacting public works, police, and user positions that will be doing the opening of the gates, taking trash, doing the types of services at parks to make sure they are as nice as we can have them, and that those were shared from multiple departments. And we also had a GIS position in planning. While there was this good news in terms of items that were funded, we also had a significant number of unfunded decision packages. So there were up to approximately 2.8 million unfunded requests and 18 million unfunded position requests. So a significant number of positions and those items that the budget did not have sufficient room to include. And with that ends our presentation. I'm happy to take any questions from council or from the public, and also happy to receive comments from the public more generally.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Franks. And so I will recognize our various council members for questions or comment. This is sort of our first go with this. We'll be having other hearings on the matter, but I'll start with Ms. Behringer if she wants to ask questions.
I have no questions now.
Okay. Mr. Singleton?
On the parks ground attendant, we currently have some type of position with police, isn't it? I can't remember what it was called.
Service officers.
Service officers. So this is going to be replacing the service officers. And it used to be 2 services officers, we're going to 4, correct?
Yes.
Okay. 4 of the park ground attendants.
There are more than 2.
I didn't know how many service officers. I thought there used to be 2. Maybe when we started there were 2. There were 4? Okay.
Yeah, so what we're doing there is the PD have about 4 services officer positions dedicated to trying to help increase some presence in parks, opening and closing the gates, and then Public Works opened and closed some gates, opened some gates, and then we took care of the restrooms, unlocking them, cleaning them throughout the day. That's been a challenging process over the years, so we met this past winter, and decided it probably would serve us better to put some full-time staff doing that that's what they were dedicated to and would allow us to have a much more consistent service. And that's kind of why Mr. Franks alluded to help out parks, because some of the challenges where we were working supplemental staff, they could only work so many hours in a week. And so that left us with some gaps in the day to where we weren't providing, no one was there to provide that service. So then if you had rented a shelter, you may come and you would be relying on the group that had it in front of you, that they clean back up behind themselves. So you may not have had a positive experience there, which then caused us some issues to refund some folks things. But we're planning on hiring four full-time staff to work this efforts 7 days a week.
Very good. Thank you.
And the services officers was one of those positions where we saw a lot of turnover, constant turnover. So it was kind of a stepping stone job for somebody to get a full-time job, so.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Vance?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Matthews?
Nothing this time.
Okay. Mr. Dellinger?
Yeah, just a few brief things. I know we'll be talking about this over the next several months, but I noticed in the binder that was prepared in the CIP, it listed that there was no money allocated for transit, but my notes from our previous conversations had 800,000 for transit, so I don't know if that's a typo or if my notes were wrong. I remember we went through kind of a long list, so we don't have to figure out tonight, but I had in my notes that we had money allocated, but it's not included here. My other question is in the fire department, the community risk captain position that's listed in there. And again, you can take the questions and get the answers later. How is that position funded in other municipalities? And it sounds like that would be a new position for us. So I just didn't know if that was something that the county shares in, or if it's something that we need to go ahead and fund. And then there was
It'd be something we would have to fund fully. The county generally does not match positions like that.
Okay. And then there was the notes in there too about the pay equity funds not coming from Wake County this year. Do we have an update on that, or is that still the case right
We
now?
haven't received any response. I don't know if council's received any response to the letter we sent the county commissioners, but so as far as I know, their stance is going to be that they're only going to provide 50% of their share.
Okay.
Until we hear different, and we haven't heard anything different so far.
They will, in total, it's just going to be deferred, like till
Correct.
next
They're
year.
never going to make up that half that they're not giving us this year, but then next budget year, they'll go to 100% of their share.
Oh, so they were planning on not,
Yeah, they're
okay.
not planning on helping us
I thought, okay.
Yeah, no, they're
That's-
not going to ever.
That's worse than I thought, okay.
They're going to provide half. And they're asking us to use some of the stimulus
Stimulus
money
money,
to
yeah.
cover that.
Okay, well,
Some of which they did give us, but that's besides the point, because we didn't think we were going to use it for that, but.
yeah, okay.
Anyway.
And then my last question, and this can probably wait for the next budget discussion, but it is on the vehicle purchase section. It was a little unclear as to how much. I had two questions with that. How many are we looking to purchase this year? And then two, what was the effect of financing the ones last year on this year's budget, since it freed up cash to do the borrowing last year? How is that carried forward into this year in terms of, what we previously forecast for needing vehicles? If we need vehicles this year, are we planning on going ahead and purchasing them outright? So, again, we can have that discussion later, but I want to kind of put it on the radar for us to dive deeper into so we can get a better handle on that stuff, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Franks, did you have anything else?
No, that's it. Look forward to working with everybody on the process.
Okay. I believe I recognize all council members, is that right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the public who wishes to comment, now would be the time to do that. And again, I would emphasize there will be other opportunities before we get to a final approval of the budget for public comment. Council, if you finished all of your questions, then I guess it's a proper excuse me, to to close this public hearing, or is it one of these where we basically hold it open, I guess, until the next session?
Well, it's my understanding there'll be another public hearing before you actually adopt,
Right.
or at least
That's
another
correct.
session to adopt.
So we can close this one now, I guess, okay. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and thank Mr. Franks for his presentation, and we'll be hearing from you further. I know we have an upcoming session next week, I believe it is, on Wednesday, is that right? Yeah, okay. So council be aware of that.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. John or somebody, if between now, or maybe Mike's still listening, if we could get a little clearer audio from him, that would be helpful to us. I don't know what the problem was tonight, but it was a little blurry at times, it seemed to me.
we apologize for that. I believe he was traveling at the time, so it was
Okay,
a little shaky, but we'll
yeah,
hopefully
okay,
have a better situation next time.
all right, we'll count on that, thank you. Okay, we're now under item new and old business, and I'm going to recognize Mari Howe, who is our Downtown Development Manager, and she's going to give us some information as regards to DFI and other matters, I guess. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have reached a wonderful point where we get to bring you our staff recommendation on the developer that we would like to work with. I do have Matt Crook and Rory Dowling from the Development Finance Initiative here tonight. They're going to lead off with a short presentation, just kind of giving you a quick refresher of the process that we've been through to get us here tonight. So I will turn it over to Matt, who is joining us remotely.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Go right ahead.
Good evening. Thanks, Mari. Let me share my screen. All right. Can everybody see my screen? It should have a title, slide, now agenda.
Yes.
Yes, it's good.
Perfect. As Mari mentioned, we're going to quickly go through kind of a quick summary of our analysis here and our review of the development partners that have submitted. We'll kind of kick it off with the project review and then talk through the solicitation process, all of which you've seen, and then provide our response analysis, and then hand it over to Mari and John for their review of the development teams and their consideration, and for council consideration. So when we started, before the pandemic and everything happened, we were looking at this downtown opportunity site that was really born out of the rec center investment that the town has made. It is a small parcel, or even a small out parcel of that entire site. And so DFI was brought in to pretty much do everything on the left-hand side. These are what we call our pre-development services, where we understand the lay of the land through the community scan and a parcel analysis. We then work with the local government, with the Downtown Garner Association and other folks to forge guiding public interest. This helps us to understand what does the community want to see on the site. We then use that information to do a market analysis, a site analysis, and financial feasibility analysis, all before going out to developers and trying to solicit a development partner. And so, as you can see on the right-hand side, we've done that. We've reached out to developers. We had 3 responses, and we've followed up on those responses and had additional work. And so now we're at the part where we want to select the partner and move forward with negotiating key deal points. As a reminder, those guiding public interests are really to kind of expand the current urban fabric of downtown Garner, provide downtown with 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., so kind of after office hours amenities, such as eating and drinking establishments that attract all ages, explore different uses, so if that's retail, office, or even residential spaces. And then also, one thing that DFR really works with pretty much every town on is maximizing private investment, minimizing or optimizing the public investment. So what we boiled all of our analysis boiled down to, and what we presented to council before going out to developers, was this idea of a 4-story, mixed-use building that has retail on the first floor. We left it up to the development community to come back to us as far as what they felt they could attract, if that was office or multifamily or even condos. And then we had this idea of a tabletop parking structure, one, to not cannibalize the parking that's already there for the rec center, but also to support the uses of the building and potentially have shared uses with other downtown patrons. So this wraps up our solicitation timeframe. So everything kind of led up into, the town selecting a developer to work with. And so that's where we are tonight. And just to remind you, within our solicitation was this evaluation criteria. Really, we were looking at the quality of proposals, submission requirements, the proposal's alignment with guiding public interest, qualifications and experience, references, current capacity of the development team to execute within the time frame. I will mention here that there was one of the responses when we presented the responses to the DGA board. There was one response that just the qualifications and experience specifically for this type of construction, a mixed-use building this size and scale, just did not meet they did not meet the qualifications for that. So we only really reached back out to 2 and had additional conversations with and interviews with. So you've seen this before, and I just wanted to highlight, I think before when we started the process, we said, here's all the things we're going to do. Everything in green, we've done. So we worked with staff that kind of, understand and to analyze the responses. We've contacted references. We presented to the DGA board, incorporated their feedback. We've also conducted developer interviews. So now I'll just quickly go through the response analysis. So the 2 that we ended up speaking with in an interview were City Plat and LNG. You've seen this slide before. This is to reorient you to who City Plat is. Most folks maybe know them with the work that they're doing on Rand Mill Road with the distillery. Again, their submission looked at apartments over retail. So 12,000 to 70,000 square feet of retail, 48 to 52 residential units. The reason that those are ranges is because they wanted to see or identify what the potential use could be for a section of their building. And then their parking structure would add a net new parking of 97. The other development firm, LNG, this is, again, something you've seen before. They've had experience in other parts of North Carolina. Their submission was apartments over retail. So it's very similar to City Plat, 6,000 square feet of retail, 50 residential units, and 74 net new parking spaces. So just to take you through a couple of charts to look at the differences between the 2, in their proposals, this is looking at the residential mix. So their City Plat's 48 to 52 and LNG's 50 total units. As you can see, LNG's units are more on the studio to 1 bedroom, a few 2 bedrooms, whereas City Plat's are more 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom and some 3 bedroom. Again, this is looking at just comparing the 2 in their proposal. Retail square footage, 12,000 to 17,000 for City Plat, 6,000 for LNG. Average retail rent, City Plat projected $20 a square foot, LNG 18. Net new parking, 97 and 74. As you can see here, what we looked at was their proposal and looked at the current UDO and what the requirements would be for parking. We made an assumption here as far as the retail parking, the retail use. But you can see here, you know, both are a little bit under what the UDOs state. And, you know, the city plat uses the square footage of retail and the number of residential units means that it would require more parking spaces than the LMG's proposal. The number of stories, what's interesting here is city plat has a 4-story, so that's a ground floor retail with 3 stories of residential above. LMG has a ground story of retail and then 2 residential stories above that retail. But they're still able to kind of fit almost the exact same number of residential units. Total development costs, we asked City Plat about this. It wasn't in their proposal, but they gave us a range of 10 to 11 million. I think we're really unsure of costs in the future. But LMG did in their proposal state that the total development costs would be about 9.45 million for their project. And then both are really talking about the same thing when it comes to the public-private partnership structure, really wanting to talk to the town about the parking, the tabletop parking structure. So at this point, I'll turn it over unless there's any questions for me about just the quick rundown and analysis of the 2 different developers. But I'll hand it over to Mari and John if there's no questions for DFI.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that presentation. Interesting information for sure. I'll start with Mr. Dellinger with any questions.
Do not have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Matthews?
No.
Anything? Mr. Vance?
No questions at this time.
Okay. Mr. Singleton?
No questions. I'll say this, is that when I was one of the, along with Mr. Dellinger, part of the interview team with Maury and John, you know, I know what proposals they have here before us, but I think when the firm that is recommended comes here, you know, that may change, you know, and they made that pretty clear that they may come here and evaluate and say, you know, we may do this or we may do that. I mean, the core of what they're talking about, the parking with both applicants is going to be a trick. So anyway, but I think just because it shows this right here and what was described here, it may change a little bit or tweak this or tweak that once he gets here and starts talking to the community and talking here in Garner.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Okay. And Ms. Behringer?
I have no questions. I have a comment. I liked the proposal for LMG. I felt to begin with, from the beginning, that a 4-story building was not appropriate in downtown, and to see that LMG came back with a recommendation for 3, I think is more appropriate, and so I'm glad to see what they brought forth.
Okay.
Let me just say, I just said what I said because they may come back with a 4-story building.
They might, but I won't like it.
Okay. I'm just not, that's why I said what I said. Just because it shows that now, it may look different.
You know what I think, okay?
In the long run.
Okay. Everybody on council okay?
Thank you, Matt. Give me one.
We're ready for the second half, is that right?
Yep, second half.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you again, Matt, for that brief introduction. That set up nicely to give you guys our staff recommendation. As Matt mentioned, we went through the process for evaluation after presenting to DGA. They gave the feedback they felt that the Quest Group's proposal was not the best match for this, and so they were eliminated, and we continued on to do the reference calls with City Plat and Lansing Melbourne Group's references. Matt and I actually did the calls. We had one call with a reference for Bobbitt, which is one of the team members from City Plat. They are working on an airport project out in Johnson County, so we talked with those folks. And then we had 2 calls with references for the Lansing Melbourne Group, one from the city of Kannapolis and one from the city of Manchester, New Hampshire. So those were very illuminating in terms of, you know, their experience working with them. I definitely appreciated being able to participate in those calls and in the interviews because, as Mr. Singleton said, you know, the getting to hear people's perspective on it, getting to hear from the developers themselves really gave you a much more in-depth picture of their level of experience, their projects, what they've done, and how that was going to apply here. So we conducted the group interviews, And thank you to Mr. Dillinger and Mr. Singleton for participating in those. So we asked the applicants questions about their development experience, their previous public-private partnerships, expectations about the design elements, how they were planning to finance the project, their experience with parking development, and also how they were planning to recruit retail tenants at the end of the project. So our recommendation is that the council move forward with Lansing Melbourne Group, and I'm going to share a few different reasons why. So one of our key reasons is for their experience with public-private partnerships. They have previous experience working on several DFI projects, so they're familiar with that structure, which is unique because there is a percentage that they do pay to DFI as part of the development agreement. They had a very strong recommendation from Kannapolis. I was very pleased with their recommendation. And basically everybody we talked to, even when I was in Michigan, I got a chance to see one of their projects. The quality of their projects just is very outstanding. And they are currently working in 3 North Carolina communities. So we know that they know what they're doing here in North Carolina. We also recommend Lansing Melbourne Group for their background in parking development. Peter, who is the primary developer in this, started out his career doing parking studies and for-fee parking development. As many people have pointed out, the tabletop parking is going to be an extremely challenging component in this project. And so I think their 20-plus years of experience in matching parking with residential and retail is going to come in very, very handy here. I don't think we're going to regret, going with them because of the experience they'll bring to the table. As was mentioned, they have a very community-oriented development process, so they're definitely interested in working with the community to meet local needs and expectations. In his interview, Peter mentioned, that they would probably spend the first couple of months hosting charrettes and meeting with the community to make sure that what they want to do is a match for what the community wants. And while we did a lot of that groundwork to make sure that that was the case, I think there's pretty much no replacement for them planning to come in and say, tell us really what you want to see in downtown. Tell us what you want here, what businesses you will come and patronize, and that's going to be invaluable to us. They really expressed a lot of patience for getting the development right for Garner. So I think that's exactly what council has always given me the impression that they want. So we felt that that was a good fit. They also presented a club level financing model, which was a really good fit. So while they have experience working with large scale institutional partnerships and can access that level of financing, they also have a very strong history of working with smaller scale financing, which they kept referring to as club level. So that means that they have connections to people that participate sort of at a lower level than just one entity putting all of the money in. And so again, that kind of matches that patient approach to development. That means you've got a group of people who are very invested in this project versus one group that's saying, hurry up, we want our return to come back out, which again, I think is a good match for what Garner's looking to do. And ultimately, the Opportunity Zone funding, which is we've always touted as a big part of this project, is a bonus to them. They're happy to have it, but they would have been willing to do this project regardless of whether or not it was in an Opportunity Zone, which I think is a great indicator that this is a good project for them because they're not relying on that. They're willing to put the money in and the time, but they don't need it in order to do this project. LMG also has a very strong history of phased development in the communities that they're working in. So in Kannapolis and Concord, they went in to do one project and they are now doing additional 2 and 3 phases. So in Kannapolis, for example, they started with one project and then they went in and bought several blocks of city-owned property and are expanding the scope of their development over additional phases to really revitalize that downtown. And I think given the amount of property that the town has strategically purchased in downtown, we have a similar setup here that will be a great fit for the future. So we are, sitting in the interviews, we were already thinking about, the land that the town owns on Rand Mill, the land that the town owns around the rec center, that those may be future phases of development that LMG might be interested in working with. And I think that is going to come up very early on in the discussion. So I think that's going to be a great benefit that's going to multiply the town's investment in this DFI partnership. And they have a local approach to retail recruitment. This was something I was very interested in hearing about. In Kannapolis, they have a really great story where, they were 100% occupied before they even opened. They went in and worked with some, sort of local influencers that had connections with the business community and said, what kind of restaurants do you guys want to see here? What are some local chains that are looking to bring second, third, fourth locations here? And so they were really keyed in on working with staff and local business folks to find what kind of retail tenants were the best fit and using those connections. So they didn't come in and say, we're just going to put whatever we can get here, whatever we can get to pay our, dollar per square foot rate. They really had some great stories about how they'd worked with people, like they'd worked with food trucks that wanted to start a storefront. They worked out different mechanisms for bringing people in at different levels. And I think that was a really great example, especially for our downtown, which I think that's going to be a challenge as well. So those are all the reasons why we recommend that the council consider LMG for this project. I fully endorse this. I think they're going to be a great fit. I'm really looking forward to sharing with them about with DGA and working with them in the future. So our next steps are going to be to answer any questions you guys have. And then if you are in agreement with this endorsement or with this recommendation, then we would ask for you to endorse our recommendation and authorize staff to begin working on a memorandum of understanding with the Lansing Melbourne Group. So that's all I have for right now. Feel free to ask any questions.
Okay, I'll ask one just quickly. If we follow this recommendation and endorse the staff recommendation, and then the MOU, I guess, will be completed, what kind of a time frame would you anticipate that they will, I guess, become engaged or start the project? Or
Yeah. I may turn to Matt on this one as well for a little bit of feedback. What I understand is I would, Matt, do you want to go ahead and field that one and I can follow up?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I believe they will look at the kind of the next 90 days to, do a lot of the conversations and everything, and that would feed into their MOU and the terms. I think ideally they want to make sure that they're putting forward whatever terms that the town wants to see that they can also honor.
And the other thing that I would add to clarify is just that even if you endorse this recommendation tonight and we begin the memorandum of understanding, council's not locked into this. So having this does not mean that we're absolutely working with them. It just gives us authorization to start negotiating those terms.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Matthews, you have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll go around the circle. Mr. Singleton?
No, sir.
Mr. Behringer?
No.
Mr. Dellinger?
Just a comment about the kind of culture fit that we witnessed, I think, in the call. I appreciate staff drawing in council, me and Mr. Singleton to sit on those interviews. I hope everything works out. I think if we do engage, it may actually take a slightly bit longer to get the project done with this developer, but that's because of the community element and and their experience working in similar communities that are rapidly changing. That requires a lot of pivoting sometimes. So I'm glad they have that experience in North Carolina because we're one of those fast-growing places. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bench?
No questions.
Okay. Let's see.
Maybe the easiest presentation I've ever given.
Okay. I wanted to recognize Mr. Hodges if he had any observations or comments he cared to make.
No, just want to thank Mari DFI as well as the DGA board who's been weighing in on this and the council members who presented in the interviews. Appreciate everyone through this entire process, the patience they've had, and letting us work through, I think, a very methodical and purposeful process. And I believe, as has already been said, that we've got a good partner that we can begin engaging with.
Great. Okay, thank you. So I believe it would be in order now for me to ask for council to, approve the recommendation and authorize staff to begin next steps to enter into an MOU with the developer of choice. Is that what you're looking for?
That would be
Okay.
great.
I'm sorry?
So move.
So motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
properly seconded. Questions? Hearing none. Council, if you're in favor of the motion, would you please vote aye?
Aye.
If you're opposed, no, and there is no opposition. So, okay.
Thank you. Good
Great, we're
evening.
moving right along. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you,
very
council.
good.
Okay.
Huge, huge,
Is there's Mr. Beck. He's not here virtually. He's here in
Oh,
person.
I
Yeah,
can
thank you,
tell.
sir.
Yeah.
So,
He's paying
the next
attention.
business is the FY '21 audit contract.
You're starting
And,
to learn me pretty
Mr. Beck, we
well.
look forward to hearing from you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
So a few meetings back, I brought to you a proposal from our current auditors, Malden and Jenkins, to extend that relationship. It was a 5-year agreement. Each year is a separate contract, though, and needs to be brought to council for consideration and approval. And so we are bringing the contract for the FY21 audit tonight. The pricing is $31,000, which is consistent with the proposal they presented to us and you all accepted. And so tonight we are asking that you would authorize us to sign that contract and proceed with them for the audit this year.
Okay, almost a pro forma sort of thing, I guess. Well, council, do you have any questions for Mr. Beck before I ask you for a motion? We discussed this before, and all right, I'll entertain a motion for council authorizing the contract as proposed by Mr. Beck.
So moved.
Okay, moved and properly seconded. Any questions? None? If you favor the motion, please vote aye.
Aye.
And there is no opposition. So, thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Okay, moving along, we are now to committee reports. And I believe, and I'll see if there are others, but I believe for certain we have a committee report from the HR committee. Am I right on that, Mr. Vance?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Good
And
to hear from you, sir.
okay, I just want to let everyone know that the advertising for board and committee vacancies started on today, and we should have gone out on the social media as well, to include email, newsletter. The application is, there's a fillable application online as well that would be easy for the applicants to complete and fill out. But however, if they've already submitted an application, we still have that, and 3 years, we keep them for 3 years. So if you applied previously and you have an application in, you do not have to reapply. So that's a good thing there. And we will continue to accept applications throughout the month of May, and we will start interviewing in June, and hopefully have the approval of those recommendations by the June 22nd council meeting. And that is all I have at this moment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Your committee is going to be busy with a short time frame there, but
Yes, sir.
important work you're doing, so thank you very much. Council, have any questions for this committee? None? Okay, all right. Any other committee reports? I'm not aware of any committee that has met. I will mention that the Stevens Committee met this morning for this cycle, and the applications are now open, or nominations, I guess, are now available for that award. I'll elaborate a little later on, but probably based on a request from the Stevens family, and after this year, we will ask that the town basically be the initiator of this process, or take over the process, and we will take a look at whether or not we need to tweak things any, but it's worked fairly well the way the committee is functioning now. So that's just a FYI to the council. Manager reports, Mr. Manager.
You have the Garner info in your packet, and I wanted to just tell you about a couple of things. In addition to that, I don't know if you remember, but a few weeks ago we informed you that federal earmarks were back. Congresswoman Deborah Ross contacted us and had discussions about each federal representative being able to submit projects for funding, and we did submit a couple of projects. And one of our projects she is carrying forward to continue in the process. It hasn't been awarded, but this continues in the process. I think each one got 10 projects they could carry forward. And the project of ours that got carried forward was the downtown streetscape and parking improvements on Rand Mill Road. That included a pedestrian plaza, sidewalk amenities, grade separation sidewalk, some bump outs, some stamped asphalt, stormwater drainage, and also a 2-story mural for some cultural figures, of some important cultural figures from Garner's history. And want to thank Mari Howe a lot for putting this together and doing a great job putting all this information together. It was an outstanding submission, and on short notice. So we're doing well to still be in the running. So regardless of what happens, you know, we made a good showing. So just want to let you know about that. Do we remember how long it will be before we hear anything, John? I don't remember the exact date on.
They did not give us a timeline. I think early on in the process, they mentioned that it could take into the summer before the House Appropriations Committee vetted all of these, because this now does move to the full House Appropriations Committee.
All right. The next thing, you have this in front of you, is the legislative agenda, something we've been working on for a little while, and it seems to be ever changing because some bills just got introduced recently, and they have until May the 13th when bill filing closes. And so we're still continue to respond to different bills that are coming out, and we may have to amend this and add some other comments to it. But basically, this is what Mr. Bridges will take to our delegation and even beyond our delegation, and kind of let them know where the town of Garner stands as far as the state legislative agenda. So
We'll send this to you tomorrow electronically, so if there's anybody that you're reaching out to personally as well, you'll have it electronically. So we'll send you a PDF of that tomorrow.
Good, thank you, yes.
Right. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager, I appreciate that. Mr. Attorney, anything?
No report.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to council reports before we go into closed session. So I'll start to my left with Mr. Matthews.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll go to my right with Mr. Vance.
Oh, yes, I would just say, appreciate the support of the Public Works. With the growth is coming a lot of additional things, additional work, additional construction, and there was a dump in front of a resident's home, and didn't know who did it. It was a construction dump, and Public Works went out there and picked up the excess debris, which was greatly appreciated. So hats off to Public Works for their quick response.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sure enough. Mr. Singleton?
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to bring up something I've been brought up here before, and I don't know if there's anything we can do, but I had a citizen contact me today again about if you're traveling on Highway 70 East, coming this way, going past where the Domino's and Carolina Barbecue is, and you go under the Van Dorn Springs overpass and get on the exit ramp to come down Ayersboro Road. Folks driving off the exit ramp off of Van Dorn Springs Road, and there's a yield sign there, which they ignore.
Yeah.
We've had more than one yield sign there. We've had yield sign there with the flags. And I know they do this, what's it called, the zipper process. In some places, I know that's not going to happen here, to release people slow. The person asked, the people coming down the exit ramp do not yield. And it can be a tricky situation. It's happened to me recently, too. I don't know if there's any way we can make to get their attention at the yield. Can you have a solar sign with flashing signs to yield after they go past the sensor? I don't know. But it is, when you're trying to get off and come here and you're slowing down and they're driving faster, it's a challenge sometimes. I don't know if there's been many wrecks with police. I just think that there have been many near ones because people are getting used to, you got to be careful. So I just bring it up that the person made a very good point that we've heard before. You know, if there's anything we might ask of the state, because they asked, are either one of these, is Vandor Springs a town street? I said, no, Vandor and 70 are both. This is a DOT, and you're on an exit ramp. I said, one day I think when they redo that bridge, that exit ramp will not be there like that. It'll be a totally reconfigured
It's a mess.
ramps on and off that Vandor Springs, but that's a long ways away. That's not going to happen in the next week or year or 4 or 5 years. I just bring that before. I don't know if there's anything we can ask DOT to do. I see Mr. Johnson on here. I don't know if he has any thoughts. Well, we may just be whistling in the wind, but anyway, I just bring that forward.
Mr. Singleton, we are working on setting up a meeting with DOT to help with some speeding concerns on Timber Drive. And while this is a different location, we're going to hopefully be meeting with some of the folks from DOT just to help us with that particular situation, so we can definitely add it to our list of questions when we have them have their attention.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'll also mention to you, we talked about traffic calming, and we adopted the new policy, and something if you want to see what Raleigh's doing on the street right now currently is go on the road and take a ride on Crosslink. And Crosslink connects over to Rock Quarry, and on the first half of Crosslink, they are doing some serious traffic calming devices. The bulb outs, the medians, they're doing a roundabout. On the first half, the other half, I don't know if they're just doing the half at the time or what, but they're doing some serious work there to slow traffic down, similar to what they did on Glasscock Street. But this has more small, short medians in it, and it narrows. I hadn't figured out yet they had bike lanes on there. Now they've got it so narrow that if you miss that median in the middle, you're in the bike lane. I don't know if the bike lanes can disappear, but anyway, it is meant to calm traffic. So if you want to see something that they've done, it costs some money now to do what they're doing. But they're bound and determined to slow some traffic down on that road. So I would just bring that forward if you want to go see it. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Singleton. Mr. Dellinger.
Yeah, just two quick things. The Downtown Garner Association has a call for artists now. We're doing some 3 by 4, right? 3 by 4.
Or was it 4 by 4?
I think it was 3 by 4.
Okay.
I think it was
4
5.
somewhere.
It was a 4 in it, but 3 by 4. Art displays that'll be placed around downtown, GPAC, and maybe in some parks. So we have a call for artists at downtowngarner.com, or if you go on social media and Facebook and go Downtown Garner, you'll find it. Hopefully those will be up sometime later this summer. So we're trying to get artists from Garner, but also some local artists that aren't in Garner, just to kind of let them know we're doing our art thing. So we're really excited about that. The other is, I told this story to Greg before the meeting, but it's a kind of a small business shout out. My mom moved to town 2 weeks ago and decided she was going to mow her own grass. So she's like, well, I'll use one of these local businesses. She went over to Hudson's Hardware, bought her a lawnmower, got it back to the house, had some user error. I won't tell you what it was, but she had some user error. So she called back over to Hudson's, and somebody was out there in 15 minutes, helped her get it all fixed up, and she was out there mowing her yard. So in the spirit of Small Business Week, a shout out there to Hudson's Hardware. That's all I've got.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
That's great.
Ms. Behringer, I believe you're next.
Don't have any reports, just a comment about the project, the Rand Mill Road project being moving further along with the Congresswoman Ross. It's just it's a really good outcome, or a bit of progress for something we've worked on for such a very long time, and we've seen a lot of progress there, but now we're seeing more, and I'm just really excited about the attention and merit it's gotten.
Okay, thank you, okay. And my concern fits in a little bit, I guess, with what Mr. Singleton has said, but, and I notice, I think this is a complaint that's listed here in the Garner info some, but I know our police chief's not here, and I know he and his department try to do their best to keep traffic moving and not moving too fast, but it seems to me that speeders in our town are getting, I don't know, a little more bold certain areas. Of course, I don't regularly travel on all of our roads here, but In particular, I think the zone on Timber Drive, once you start at, I guess, Avisburg going towards Timber Drive School, there's a 35 zone there, and used to it turned into 45 as soon as you got there at the neighborhood, and it was 45 there on. It's now 35 until you get down to Vandora, but I see a lot of people who don't pay much attention to that speed. And coming back from the other way, if they're already going 45, I see a lot of people who don't slow down to 35. That's just one area, and you know, of course, I think I was out there the other night somewhere, and I think there were a couple of cars just racing out there. But at any rate, it does concern me some that there seems to be at least a segment of our population, I think it's pretty small, that they seem to kind of ignore speed limits in some of our towns. And while we haven't had, I guess, any serious accidents or fatalities or injuries, speeding is a cause of that. And that's something I guess I could take up with Mr. Benz, and I'm sure they're trying to do all they can. But I don't know if I'm the only one that's seemed to notice that, but it is a problem that I'd like to see us maybe try to get our arms around a little bit more and make our town a safer place.
You're right, Mr. Mayor. I've had people blow by me before, and I've followed them into 35 up to 50, and I stopped after that, realizing that was dangerous.
Yeah.
And they're driving away from me at such a speed, they're well over 60 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can tell when somebody's 5 miles faster than you can tell when somebody's 15 miles faster than you. I
Exactly.
drive all the time. And,
Yeah.
and it happens. Matter of fact, enforcement, they were on Buffalo Road yesterday morning, Saturday morning, which is another, they get down there by Briarhaven, and so I mean, it's both ways.
Yep.
So they regularly do that road, sometimes at the end of our street, where the police park. But now the traffic teams try to get around, but if Timber Drive's a 4-lane road and people exceed the safe speed.
Mr. Mayor, that is the section that we are having the meeting that I mentioned earlier when, in response to Mr. Singleton. That is the section that we specifically are trying to get together with DOT to look for any creative ways that we can try to help that. It's a unique situation because it is 4-lane with a median, and so you cannot implement most of your traditional traffic calming type measures that you would use in other settings. And so that's one of the purposes of that meeting, is to see if they can help us with any creative ideas for helping with speed management through there.
Okay. And that may be the best source. I don't know if we can invite the police chief in and see if he's got any recommendations, but anything we can do to kind of slow our citizens down some will be a positive thing, I think. And they can gripe at the mayor for saying that, I guess. But at any rate, okay. All right, I believe we've covered all council reports. So the final item on our agenda tonight is a closed session, and you have the sites there and the add-on site. So I'll entertain a motion for a closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And let's see, Ms. Jones, do we need to give the sites over again? Or they were mentioned earlier?
You can reference the agenda and that they were stated earlier.
Okay, all right. So, council, you have before you a motion for us to go into closed session relative to the sites and the agenda and the other add-on site that was mentioned as well. So, motion properly before us. If you favor the motion to go into closed session at this time, please vote aye.
Aye.
And there is no opposition. So, okay, I declare that we are now out of open session and in closed session. Are we good? Okay, excuse me.
He's going to summarize.
Okay, the council is now back in open session, having gone into closed session. I was going to ask our attorney if she would briefly summarize our closed session process.
Yes, during closed session, council received information regarding 2 potential claims and also received some information related to personnel. No action was taken on any of the items at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jones. Sure enough. So Having completed our agenda, anything else for the good of the council this evening? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So move.
Okay, moved and properly seconded. Any questions? All in favor of adjournment, please vote aye.
Aye.
And there is no opposition, so declare this meeting to be adjourned.
It's before 9 o'clock. Something's wrong.
Remind council that we'll have a special meeting a week from this Wednesday, right?
Correct, on the 12th.
And that is in the morning time, starting at 8:30, I believe, is that right?
Yes, probably gather at 8 and start the meeting promptly at 8:30.
Okay, okay.
In here or in the training room?
I believe we're going to be in here.
Just curious.
All right. So, thank you all. We'll see you on that date. I don't think we have any meetings before then, so thank you, staff, for your indulgence. And I would note that it has not yet reached the 9 o'clock hour, so that's a positive, I think. Sure enough. Thank you.